So this morning I'm talking about the monad. So put on your thinking caps. The monad is actually a principle that many esoteric students know about, particularly if you've studied Theosophy and Helena Blavatsky and Torquem Sardarian. It is not an easy subject, but it's an exciting subject. And I have, at the end of the talk today, if you can just stay with me until the end, I have some very exciting information to share about you regarding the monad. When we think about the continuity of life, in fact, you're thinking about the monad. I think perhaps the easiest way to recognize that each of us has a monad is to think the monad is your inmost self. Your inmost self. Hyphen, hyphen, hyphen. The monad is my inmost self. So if you don't understand anything else today, think about this. It's a good seed thought, actually. You know, what is my inmost self? What does this mean to me? How can I recognize it? How is it in expression? Like so many terms in esoteric nomenclature, there are many levels of understanding and frequent derivations of the word, depending on the application, the approach, the need. So today, the talk will focus on the definitions of the term monad. I'll talk about the relationship we have with our monad. And like I said, there's a surprise at the end of the talk today. It's so cool. So perhaps the most abstract definition is that the monad is a ray of the central spiritual sun, the hidden sun. It is a breath of the absolute. See, these are very, very abstract terms. They're abstract until it becomes a reality to you. And when you begin to understand what a ray is and what the breath of the absolute is. What is the absolute? What is the breath of the absolute? You know, in time, as we think about this particular definition of the monad, it's like the rising sun. It's all of a sudden, yeah, that's what it is. That's what a ray is. That's what the absolute breath is. The breath of the absolute. The next is the monad is an atom within the fire of our heart. It is an atom within the fire, or we could say it is the nucleus of our heart. The monad is the nucleus of our heart. And then the monad is a seed of the central spiritual sun, growing and blooming in the likeness of its source. So those are three definitions of the monad. It's a little abstract, but it's okay. You know, we don't have to know everything about the monad this morning. Now, here are a couple of derivations of the term monad, and you're very familiar with these terms. The first is the human spark. So the human spark is the derivation of the word monad. Another derivation of the term monad is the human soul. Now the monad, this is interesting, the monad is the seed of the antakarana. It is a seed of the antakarana. So what is the antakarana? The antakarana is the psychic line that connects our physical senses within each plane of consciousness. That means that it's a psychic line that connects our physical senses, our astral senses, our mental senses, our buddhic and atmic senses. So, think about the monad being the seed of the antakarana, and what this, in a perhaps subtle way, is telling us about the continuity of life. How the monad reincarnates. And wait till you find out what else it does at the end of the talk this morning. It just blows my mind. And today's talk is actually the result of many years of my own study of the monad from the teaching. So this is not original. This is all from the teaching. But I try to distill it down to a point where you'll really understand what the monad is. So now when you read the books of the teaching and you come across that term monad, it's like the light bulb is already on and now you really get it. So the monad is the seed of the antakarana. The antakarana links our personality with the monad. The antakarana links our personality with the monad. Now here it gets a bit wordy, but I think it's important to understand how the antakarana, the psychic line, links our personality with the monad. There has to be connectivity. We can't have a personality floating all by itself, out into space. It would be like, here we have a physical body, and maybe over on Mars we have an emotional body, and maybe over on Sirius is our mental body, and nothing is connecting these bodies together. There has to be a connectivity. So that connectivity for us, for those in the path, for those on the path of the return to Shambhala, the antakarana bridge is really, really important because that's our electric or psychic line of connectivity. So the antakarana links our personality with the monad. So the monad is the seed of the antakarana, right? Okay. This bridge, well, let me say this other thing. One other point is that the antakarana links the highest aspect of our personality, which is the mental unit, to the mental permanent atom. The antakarana bridge links the highest aspect of our personality, which we call the mental unit, to the mental permanent atom. So that's really the first stage of the antakarana bridge. So that's the lowest stage, actually, of the antakarana bridge. Now, this bridge is constructed by ourselves, by our own hands and feet. We can't buy it from somebody. We can't purchase the antakarana bridge and somehow plug it in, and now we have a bridge between the mental unit and the mental permanent atom and so forth. We have to build this. It's like building our own computer. We have to build it by our hands and feet. If you've ever tried to build a computer, you know how difficult, I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. It's like this morning I woke up, my computer doesn't work. Help, what do I do? Shut it down, turn it off. Now the mouse isn't working. And if I think that's difficult, so we have to build the antakarana bridge by our hands, our own hands and feet. So this psychic line is slowly built, connecting our higher bodies together. From the higher mind to the spiritual triad, and finally to the monadic plane. The monadic plane is the plane of freedom. Those souls who function in the substance of the mental plane are free souls. They are great souls. When our spark reaches the monadic plane, it is then we are free to pass into cosmic evolution. So do you see how, in understanding the process of building the Antakarana bridge, it is the process of building the continuity of our life. Now here's a very basic function of the monad, which I think we can all understand, that the monad is a source of light and life to the personality. It is a source of light and life to the personality. So that's just a little introduction. Should I go on? If I don't, we won't get to the end of the time. As our human soul progresses from the lower mind to the higher mind and occupies the center of the chalice, it is then the human soul is going to ascend into the spiritual triad and use the energies of intelligence and love and willpower to come in contact with the soul of humanity, to come in contact with hierarchy, to come in contact with Shambhala. So intelligence and love and willpower, these are the three energies the soul uses to come in contact, again, with the soul of humanity, with hierarchy, and with Shambhala. Now, the soul of humanity corresponds to our personality. Hierarchy corresponds to our human soul, and Shambhala corresponds to the spiritual triad. So our monad can express itself as intelligence, as love, and as willpower. Intelligence, love, and willpower. So I guess the question would be then, we all think we know what intelligence is, what love is, what willpower is. But let's go a little bit deeper. Think, okay, what is intelligence? Why do we need intelligence? Intelligence programs and carries on the life of the personality bodies, slowly awakening that light that is concealed in the cells and atoms of our physical, etheric, astral, mental bodies. That's what intelligence does. See how practical? Now, this is not abstract. In this process of awakening the light within the cells and atoms of these bodies, it is preparing us for the third initiation, or the transfiguration initiation. So that's intelligence. It programs and carries on the life of the personality. Love. Love in the higher mind. And that's how we want to think about love, this powerful energy of love. It is in the higher mind that builds the future temple for our monad. This focus, it's a focus. It focuses the monad in the higher mind, in the chalice, the jewel in the lotus. So this focus is formed by 12 energies that are used in the chalice, radiating intelligence, love, and power, and puts the awakening monad This is a real key point here, that these 3 points, the intelligence and love and power, put the awakening monad in contact with the higher worlds. This is why striving is so important. You know, it's like the locomotive of a train. When it first starts out, it would be like our divine spark coming into, going through involution, and then in the process of evolution is now starting to wake up, right? And it's really hard to wake up. We see a lot of sleeping people out there in the world today. They don't even think about their soul, or that they are a divine spark, or as a monad, that it's the inmost self, this beauty within themselves. So it requires labor, and this is a term that we read in the books, labor. It doesn't say work, it's labor. And the term labor refers to the soul in the process of awakening. It's the monad in the process of awakening. And until it becomes fully awake, it's trapped in the lower bodies, in the personality life. However, as this light increases and awakens all these cells and atoms within these bodies, that's the process of the monad awakening. And when it's released from the chalice, then it is in contact. It's no longer burdened by the lower bodies, no longer burdened by glamours and illusion and Maya, and by computer problems. It just, now it is able to take that electric or that psychic line called the Antakarana and build it into the higher worlds, construct it so we have contact with the higher worlds, conscious contact with the higher worlds. So that's love. Will is found in the center of the spiritual triad. The center of the spiritual triad. The spiritual triad is a field of energy composed of the substance of the higher mind and the fourth and third cosmic ethers. So the fourth cosmic ether is the Buddhic or intuitional plane, and the third cosmic ether is the Atmic plane. So will is found in the center of this field. We call the center of the spiritual triad, the holy triad. See, this is not a feel-good talk, you know, and you have to really stay concentrated, but it's part of the teaching. And, you know, the last few weeks I've been talking about, you know, are you a living soul? And we're talking about intelligence, and we talked about the chalice. All these talks are working together like a tapestry. So if you have the time, you can listen to the talks that started the 1st of February, and you're going to see the process of your own life. And that's exciting. That's exciting to learn about the process of life and your own life. So, as our human soul advances, it builds bridges between all levels of consciousness. Our human soul builds bridges between all levels of consciousness, and it develops the power to act intelligently, the power of being creative, and the power of integration. These are 3 words: intelligence, creativity, and integration. These 3 words represent processes. The power of integration is the ability to orchestrate all the soul's activities in harmony with the divine plan. As our human soul advances to the higher mental plane, he consciously learns how to use love energy and brings greater light into the intellect. It is through love energy, though, that our soul develops. Now, this is interesting. The teaching instructs that it is through love energy that our soul develops holism. Holism. It develops holism as far as the solar system is concerned. It is through love energy that our soul eventually attracts the 12 energies of the zodiac and builds a station of love within the higher mental plane. As our human soul advances, it fuses the force of intelligence, the energy of love, and evokes the energy of will from the depth of its core. Well, stay awake. Stay with me. I know, you should have put this together. It took a week, to put all these ideas together in a way that would simplify, the whole process of what the monad does, what it is about, and that it is us. It's our inmost self. So it's important to know what's happening. Ignorance is not bliss. I learned that this morning. Why isn't this mouse working? Ignorance is not bliss. Okay. It is the energy of the will that he advances, through the energy of will that the soul advances from the higher mind to the spiritual triad. This is one of the reasons this past year we've had a group within White Mountain studying and writing papers about the will. So we can understand the importance of the will. The energy of the will increases in our soul after it masters its bodies. It increases as he masters his body, handles his karma, and overcomes the obstacles on the path of his evolution. The energy of will increases in our soul as it masters his bodies, handles his karma, and overcomes the obstacles on the path of its evolution. Will energy is used not only to master, but also to detach and to renounce and to sacrifice and to hold the spiritual direction toward the cosmic magnet. That's will energy. Thus the spark, the human soul, the monad, 3 terms, the spark, the human soul, the monad grows as a child grows. It unfolds and it develops. See, all that exists, all its potential that's found within its core, that inmost self. As the spark unfolds and equips itself with the higher vesture of glory, the light of the cosmic self finally dawns in it. Slowly and gradually, until one day it intelligently and consciously feels that I am the self. This is my inmost self. Its love spreads in space. It becomes all-inclusive. Its will, like electrical fire, destroys all limitations and acts like the cosmic self. This is who you are. Not that you just live in Prescott, Arizona, see? We're headed out to space, but we have to build the bodies to get out there. From the spark to cosmic selfhood, the thread of life is woven by strings of light and darkness, pain and joy, pleasure and suffering, future and success. All the experiences of life and lives form the history of our traveling spark. Before the inmost self enters into the awareness and realization of the cosmic self, this is very important, so pay attention to this. I'm going to repeat it. Before our inmost self enters into the awareness and realization of the cosmic self, it reviews the films of all its records. And at the threshold of the cosmic self, authority and power are given to annihilate all those records and be free from all the memories of the past. The future is the cosmic self. One of the techniques to proceed toward our true self is concentration. Believe it or not, it's concentration, a technique to proceed toward our true self. We read in sacred books that concentration is unity. This is again one of those derivations, of esoteric nomenclature. So when you hear the word concentration, don't go to Webster's dictionary. That's going to take you in the wrong direction. Esoterically, the word concentration means unity. So concentration is a process of becoming oneself, of withdrawing our diffused self into focus. Concentration goes level after level. We need to achieve concentration on the physical planes, during which we are totally aware of all of our actions. So at this point now, the self or the monad is focused on the physical plane. Concentrated, focused on the physical plane. The next level is the emotional plane, in which the self must be focused, the capital S self, the monad, must be focused to be aware and in control of all that is related to its emotions and feelings. So that's the next level. Then the next level of concentration will be in the mental plane. The next level of concentration will be in the mental plane, in which the self must achieve complete focus and mastery, to be aware and in control of all that is related to thinking and the thought process. With such withdrawal and focusing, not only energizes the body, in which the self is concentrated, the monad is concentrated, the soul is concentrated, the spark is concentrated, but also uses the body more creatively. So after the self withdraws, the organized mechanism is connected with the higher centers for a better operation. We go from a Volkswagen to a Cadillac, so to speak. Concentration or focus of the self must proceed until the perfection focus is achieved on all levels in the human form. Concentration or focus of the self must proceed until the perfection focus is achieved on all levels in the human form. So when we talk about perfection, it's like, we turn in our meditation reports and papers and say, it took me 6 months because I didn't want to turn in a paper that wasn't perfect. I will guarantee you it's not going to be perfect when we think in terms of perfection on the higher mental plane. They are the spiritual triad. So don't slow yourself down and wait 6 months until you figure out the right word. Concentration of the self will not be over until the self is one with the all self. Someday we can talk about the all self, but not today. Concentration of the self will not be over until the self is one with the all self. This is the whole process of evolution of our divine spark, of our monad. No one can speak truly about such an experience, about being totally connected with the all self, because it transcends all reason and logic. But if you watch the course of an arrow, you will know that it is going to hit the target if the force of concentration is propelling it or attracting it. The monad is programmed to return home with a wealth of experience. This programming makes our monad to choose those steps which will facilitate it and assist it to return back home. It is even programmed in such a way that in its failures, the monad can still find the path of return. It is not a point-to-point direction of its course in its long journey. I was so delighted to learn this because with all the air signs that I have in my chart, don't program me. Nobody wants to be programmed. It's like, discipline? What? I'm not going to, what? A path of discipline? I'm not going to jump onto that path. I'm a free soul. So these are trigger words, discipline and programming. So we have to get out of Webster's dictionary, go into the teaching. Okay, what does programming of our monad mean? And then we learn, thank God, it's programmed. And that we have disciplines to keep it on the right track. It is not a point-to-point dictation of its course in its long journey, but a program that makes our monad choose those steps which assist it to return back home. Now, there are many lost souls who for a long time disregard the warnings of their inmost self, their core. And when this happens, they reach a state of thick darkness. These darkened souls, this is important to think about because it makes me very angry to have souls that are so buried in darkness that they can do this. What they do is they change the teaching of the great ones, like reincarnation. We had children leave our youth program when their parents, the parents of their peers, found out they were attending a group that believed in reincarnation. And they took off because they didn't want to be different, I guess. See, that makes me angry, and it should make us all angry. And I'm not saying that the parents are dark souls. God, don't hear me say that. It's the darkened souls that put that out, into space, and then people pick it up and believe it and teach it, and then the teachings of the great ones are changed. The darkened souls open the doors of corruption the gates of prostitution and exploitation and tyranny and totalitarianism. Believe it or not, I heard a TED talk that was being given by a woman who is a prostitute, and she is an advocate now for prostitution, to protect prostitutes, to change the law, to make prostitution legal. And she was so dedicated to this whole process and told her stories and the stories of her friends that were prostitutes and how they lose their lives and how dangerous it is. But she said it was a way to make money. Darkened souls have their source of corruption, and they know how to mislead youth into darkness through drugs, certain video games, alcohol, and violence. Now, the prime duty of a teacher is to sound the note of the initial program. The initial program, the monad, to find the initial note of that monad and try to make people hear their note vibrating within their core. This is very hard to do because of so many reasons, because of drugs, because of video games, because of alcohol, because of anger and hatred and greed and jealousy and vanity and ego, which just suffocates our monad. So imagine the job of the teacher that comes in and tries to sound the note of that initial program within us. But once we hear it, we awaken. And when we awaken, we do not need assistance. We don't need assistance when our inner note awakens us to the awareness of our initial programming. But of course, when a person awakens, the urge will be to cooperate and support those disciples and initiates, those beings of light who spread beauty, goodness, joy, and freedom. So at that point, you're a conscious soul. Conscious soul incarnate. When that note has been heard, you're paying attention to it. Now you're a conscious soul incarnate. And now we've come to the end of the talk. I'm so excited to share this with you. When the monad gains self-consciousness and has mastery over all the elements of its bodies, it develops the capacity to expand the field of its service on many planes and to meet the increasing needs of advancing souls. Like the master, we can relate to that, right? We can relate to the job of the master. And now we can think about the job of the monad to meet the increasing needs of advancing souls. The monad can even create 7 personalities. Your monad, it's a good... Your monad can create 7 personalities. It can even create 7 souls who act under one ruler, the ruler being the monad, but in different planes. If this occurs, the monad can eventually absorb these souls into itself. And the best is yet to come. The souls are eventually drawn into the synthesizing center of the monad. The monad, now, kind of summary here, the monad first expresses itself with one personality. Okay, not multiple, okay. We've got a psychologist, a psychotherapist here. The monad first expresses itself with one personality. Then, as it conquers time and matter and space and develops individuality and awareness, the monad can duplicate its personality and gradually multiply. This is the summary. Recapping here. And here's the big deal. Examples can be found in the teaching of Agni Yoga when we read about the wisdom of the thinker. There's been such a controversy about who is the thinker. And the general conclusion, it's Plato. Now, Daniel and I used to be engaged in these incredible conversations about Plato being a conglomerate. This is a word we can understand, a conglomerate. Now, that understanding over the last few months that I've been developing this is, wait a minute, it's the monad that has created these souls, of which it is now absorbing these souls within itself as a synthesis. And so the thinker, okay, the thinker can be Plato. The thinker can be other souls as well, can be Socrates. If you can think this way, then many of those questions about who is the thinker can be answered. The monad gradually multiplies. Isn't this just incredible? Another example, those masters who have achieved monadic control can broadcast and express themselves with 7 different personalities, each meeting different needs on different planes. There's so much in that, but I can't share more. We have to think about this and to understand it. In manifestation, these monadic personalities can even contact and cooperate with each other as if they were different from each other. They can cooperate and contact each other as if they are different from each other, being on different levels of development. It is even possible that one of these manifestations can be the teacher to another manifestation. And you thought you knew the teaching. This is such an incredible mystery to think about. So I just want to leave you with these thoughts to help you realize that to understand the beauty and the mystery of the monad is quite vast and infinite. So thank you for not leaving. Hearing me out to the end. I just, what I'm hoping is as you think about today's talk and you juxtapose it alongside of the other talks of the last few weeks, and you see what a magnificent human being you can be, what you're going to be, what your future is, what the infinite means to us. And someday maybe we can talk more about this.